Please welcome JetBlue President Marty St. in conversation with founder and editor of the Airline Observer, Brian Sumers.
They swivel a little bit. Perfect. All right, Marty, thanks for doing this. Well, I told you that I wouldn't necessarily ask questions that you had prepared for or that were on the card. I'm going to start a little bit out of left field here, but there was a really nice program we just saw from American Express about the lounges. And I think that they had mentioned that they had seen this trend coming at least 10 years ago, maybe before. They've got lounges all over the world. One of the knocks on JetBlue sometimes is you guys are a little slower to see trends. 2025, your first lounge is coming. What made you guys see that this was an opportunity? And then the question that gets asked about JetBlue sometimes, why did it take so long?
Wow, thanks for that question so much. Well, I'm so happy to be here. No, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, the lounge program had to be profitable for us. And I remember evaluating lounges 10 years ago, and we couldn't make the numbers work. I think the real secret sauce to making a lounge work this time is actually going to be the credit card. We have a very, very strong partnership with our friends at Barclays, and the TrueBlue credit card has just been outstanding. And I think with the core of the lounge access system being JetBlue Premium credit card, which we've sort of announced without announcing the details, we finally at the point that it's P&L positive. I mean, one thing I think is important to focus on about sort of the last, 5 or 6 years from JetBlue is, we've not made money for a while. And obviously that's our number one priority with JetForward is to get ourselves back to profitability. We would not be doing a launch program if it was not absolutely accretive. And it's one of the many things that are in JetForward.
All right. So JetForward is your new transformation plan. There's a lot of stuff in it. And I don't mean to give you a hard time because you're one of my favorite people in the industry.
You're a journalist.
Okay. So. Some people here know that I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles was part. You guys thought that you could be a nationwide airline that could be all things to all people. It seems like that has gone away. Well, what are you guys now?
Well, listen, I think at the core of what we talk about with respect to JetForward is building the preeminent leisure network on the East Coast. I think one of the things that it's to a certain extent, I kind of call it like, swinging for the high fastball, which is it looks like a good idea until you actually do it, and then you swing and miss. This brand resonates very well. RASM-wise, we perform relatively well on the West Coast, but not as well as we needed to be profitable. And frankly, with the limits we have on growth, given the problems with Pratt & Whitney, we're at the point now where every plane has to earn its way in. The core strength of this network is leisure up and down the East Coast. And that is where we make our profits, and that's where we're taking our focus. So that's why some of the things that were either focused on business travel, which hasn't fully come back, or other parts of the country, have really been redistributed to be really focused on the East Coast.
So how hard was it to be, I don't know, the number 5 or number 6 carrier flying Los Angeles to Cabo San Lucas? How much money did you lose on those routes?
I generally try to not lie in my life, and I will tell you, I did not look because I was afraid of what I would see. A lot of this happened while I was gone, and frankly, I'm more focused on where to put the planes now. And
okay.
If I think about 35 years doing this, what I like to do is build networks and make money. So that was not going to happen in LA.
All right.
Now I will also say, we have a Mint franchise in LA that is profitable, very successful. We're certainly not pulling off the West Coast. We're not pulling out of LA, but the up and down the West Coast service is not coming back.
Okay. I'll remind the audience here that if they want to ask friendlier questions, you can do that by logging in.
I take any questions, friendly or not.
So you're an East Coast airline now.
Yes.
The brand tends to resonate better on the East Coast, right? All right. And then is it just Boston and New York and Fort Lauderdale? You're playing around in some other markets as well, right?
I think the best way to describe that is if you think about the core points of origin for us, it's really New England, New York State. That's a place where this brand does extremely well. We did a lot of growth in New England in the last tranche we announced, but we also added frequencies from New York State to Florida as well. And on the other end, it's South Florida, Orlando, and also the Caribbean. It's also a very strong leisure market for us. Okay. Leisure and visiting friends and relatives.
I don't want to put you on the spot any more than I already have, but you did tell me backstage that you're a really nice guy. And no, I believe that. And you had been at JetBlue for a very long time, and then you left, and then you came back. There were some hard decisions, I think, in the past that were not made about JetBlue. You would keep routes for a long time. You would keep employees because it was the nice thing or the right thing to do. Like you're making some tough decisions now, right?
Well, I mean, the only I love looking at the math. I'm completely.
You're a math guy, right?
I love that. Yes. No, I mean, listen. The most important decision for us to focus on right now is profitability. And I can think of some routes that started out tough. They continued to ramp, and then COVID came, and then things fell apart. So you can look at a place like Minneapolis at -8 or -10 and say, okay, that'll eventually get there. COVID comes, business travel goes
-8, -10,
margin,
like an operating margin.
Operating margin, yeah. And then it ends up at -30, and it's like how much time you want to wait when you get stuff that'll do better right now with the same airplane. So I honestly. I can't speak for what happened while I was gone, but I will say when I came back, I didn't find the decision hard at all. I mean, the number one goal is profitability now.
Okay. I know most people are probably intimately familiar with your CV, but let's just make it clear you had left JetBlue, and you all can read the 8K to see what happened. And then you came back 5 years later, you were just asked to return, right? Recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm back. So
You're back.
Obviously it was I'm not there against someone's will. No, Joanna asked me to come back, and I was actually very happy to.
Okay. Was it known all along that when Joanna's predecessor as CEO, Robin Hayes, left, that the airline was going to become an East Coast focused leisure airline, or did you guys make the decision after you returned?
You're asking the wrong guy for that question. I don't really know.
Okay.
I know that when I first came back, that a lot of work had been done by the team, and I really shouldn't take any credit for this. I mean, the team. I walked in with a team that had a good path, and I just literally signed it and it happened. So I don't want to take any of this credit. I mean, it's a really good, hardworking team that I'm very, very proud of and happy to be with.
So using these phrases, leisure airline, East Coast leisure airline, I've heard you say it a million times on the earnings calls. If there are business travelers in the audience, do you care about their business? Are you still doing any corporate business, or are you out of that game?
Oh, no, we still do corporate business. We still have a corporate sales team. Obviously, with a product like Mint, we carry a lot of corporate customers who are very attracted to the product. But I think the best way to describe it is we're not going to build the network around that. I mean, we've got one of the top 3 accounting firms based in Tampa is a good customer of ours. I mean, we certainly have corporations that like to fly us with our network in Boston, a lot of good corporate accounts up there. But I think the answer is we're not building a network for it. We had a very difficult conversation with one of our very good customers in Boston. We closed Minneapolis. And it was painful because they're a good customer. And, at the end of the day, the line was, I'm sorry, there weren't enough of you. And it's sad, but it's fact. I mean, at the end of the day, our job is to make money for our investors.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about Mint. One of the reasons to fly to Europe in the very beginning, not so much anymore, was this idea that you had to cater to corporate customers in New York and Boston who had to go to London, Paris, and Amsterdam. What's the new plan to go to Europe?
I don't know if I agree with the premise of the question, to tell you the truth. I mean, the growth to Europe really came from this incredible success on the service to the West Coast. And I think what we had found at the time on the transcontinental Mint was that we had a all-coach product that was unprofitable, period. And a pretty big chunk of the airline, certainly as far as airplanes, devoted to flying to the West Coast. And as we did the analysis on this is probably 2012, 2013, what we realized was, wow, we're actually doing really well coach to coach. It's just that everybody else has this 20% of premium revenue on the front of the airplane. So, my negative 10% margin is their plus 10% margin because they have all this really good revenue. And then you start looking at it and you say, boy, these prices are really high. Like, we could do this for so much cheaper, which turned into, hey, we could do this for so much cheaper. So I would call it very opportunistic, which was, this is a way to make sure that we could fly to the West Coast profitably. And frankly, when we saw the customer reaction, and it's funny, I hate to go back to corporates, but we had corporations that had refused to talk to JetBlue as long as I'd been there, calling us up saying, okay, we want a deal now, because they couldn't keep their customers, their employees off of our flights because the service was so good. And frankly, we looked at Europe and looked at the prices and looked at the economics of flying a narrow body long haul, which, we are big fans of the 321 as a long range airplane, and realized that we could have lower CASM than airlines flying wide bodies. And I think you look at our ability to deliver a great product, and the CASM opportunity of a 321 long-range airplane, and the decision sort of made itself. I would certainly not say that it was designed for corporate customers.
Okay. Can you give the audience an idea, a route like Boston or New York to London, how much money does it make in July and how much money does it lose in January?
I'm not going to give you that idea. What I do know is that my competitors all have models that will tell you that in detail, so you can ask them if you want to know. And frankly, listen, we were very happy with how the Atlantic did this summer. I think the big change in 2024 going forward is that we're going to get much more aggressive about pulling down in the winter and redeploying the airplanes. So, we have multiple airplanes that were flying the winter of 23, 24 across the Atlantic that will not be flying this winter. They'll be flying domestically. And the beauty of this is we have a lot of domestic opportunities, ranging from multiple mid frequencies to Phoenix, to flying mid to Bozeman, and anywhere we think is a good premium customer base domestically and that we think there's enough demand, we would like to try it. And one thing that I've talked about within the company, you made a point earlier about JetBlue being cautious, and generally we've been pretty cautious about things because culturally it is very tough to go, trumpet a lot of expansion, everyone gets excited, and then a year later saying, that didn't work, we're not going to do it. I think we do have to experiment. And frankly, I learned this from my previous CEO at LATAM. He said, if 10% of your network ideas don't fail, you're not being aggressive enough. So, we have talked about some of the stuff we're doing and saying, hey, we're going to try things and they may not work. But that's okay. I'll give you for an example. Some of the growth we've done in New England and New York, we haven't actually fully opened stations with JetBlue crew members because if it doesn't work, we want to have the ability to get out without disrupting people's lives. If it does work, that'll be different. But I'm sure you can imagine opening Islip with a lot of crew members in Suffolk County who would love to work there. And we're still using a partial mix of crew members to do that. And I think it's prudent for us because we want to make sure we're profitable, and then also it's better for our crew members as well.
Now, how long do you give a route? I know Daniel Schertz, who runs your network, he was at Frontier before. I think he used to give routes like 11 days, and then he would cut them. JetBlue is a different kind of airline. Do you give it a year? Do you give it 2 years? What do you do?
Well, I'll say our growth rate's a lot lower, so we don't have to throw as much spaghetti against the wall as Frontier did, number one. Number two, we also are in a situation where we don't have a lot of airplanes coming with the Pratt problem. So there was a pretty high hurdle. I feel great about the stuff we've added, Manchester, Islip, as far as the new cities, both booking extremely well. And I think it really come back to the core of the strength that this brand has in the northeast corner of the U.S. And it's funny because, Islip already, I think it's already in the top quartile of TrueBlue redemption cities in the first month of flying. We have a very strong customer base there, and I'm very happy how things are going right now. And listen, we're not going to be shy about canceling things that don't work, but I think the right thing is to try to pick right in the first place.
All right. Can I put you on the spot again?
Sure.
Okay.
Why
You
not?
say Mint is doing well.
Yes.
A lot of airlines say Premium is doing well. There's a rumor out there, Marty, and there's a rumor that JetBlue is going to introduce a new premium product, not the one that was announced on the last earnings call, but something like maybe a junior Mint, something like a domestic first class product. You guys doing it?
I've heard that rumor.
You've heard that rumor. Is the rumor coming from your office?
My call is coming from inside the house.
No.
Yes. I can't comment about anything like that. I will say that we are looking at the best way to use the real estate in the airplane. Too soon to make any sort of announcement. I'm not trying to make any news here today on that sort of thing, but I'd say based on the success we've seen from Mint and even the success we've seen from the even more RASM growth, it's certainly something we thought about.
All right. The other thing that you did announce was an overhaul to the even more space product, premium economy. Can you tell us anything more about what you plan there? Will you block the middle? What are we going to be getting? Free food, free drinks? What's it going to look like?
So we have not announced that yet.
Okay, well now is a good time.
It would be a time to announce it. This is probably not the best time to announce it, but no, I think our goal is to make sure we have a very competitive product, and I think we've looked at what some of our competitors are doing with their premium economy domestically, and certainly looking at that and trying to figure out what's best for our customers.
Okay. I think when you were in Latin America, one of the buzz phrases on JetBlue earnings calls was to have a product for every customer segment. And perhaps I'm reading too much into this, but I don't hear that as much anymore. Do you still want a product for any person that would want to buy an airline ticket? Or are you so focused on an East Coast leisure customer that maybe you're not going to hit every segment that United can hit?
And it's funny, I mean, we talk about this a lot. And, the phrase I use with the team, and I say, listen, every customer is a leisure customer. Some of them are leisure and business customers. And if you're truly only a business customer, we're probably not the right brand for you. Not just for network, also because you probably wouldn't like flying JetBlue. It's a little bit too fun for you. But I love leisure as being a base for where we are. That being the case, we have seen, even with our current positioning, that premium products also attract a lot of leisure customers. And I'm not the first person to comment about that's actually an industry trend. So I think that's actually the products that we are offering have been good for business customers and leisure customers. Certainly, Mint has been very, very popular with business customers.
All right, there are fewer and fewer naysayers every year, but I always talk to people, and I'm sure you do as well, who say, this is just a passing trend. Premium can't last forever. There's going to be a recession, some sort of shock, and people are going to trade down, and all these airlines are going to have too many empty premium seats. But Delta has been doing this for, 15 years now? I mean, you think that this is a lasting trend, this premium thing?
I absolutely do. And frankly, we've looked at the premium revenue trends back into the teens. And this really started probably 2011, 2012. And we've got very clear data showing buy-up revenue and customers who are buying into more premium products since then. And that even includes in places like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, places that have been more visiting friends and relatives and less business focused. So that to me is not in any way inconsistent with what we're seeing. With respect to recession, I was at JetBlue during the recession, the financial crisis of the late 2000s. And frankly, that is really when we sort of stepped up as far as our profitability, because what we saw was that leisure travel actually was more resilient than business travel. So I actually feel great about the niche that we've picked out. And I would say even among leisure traffic, VFR traffic was extremely resilient. And the line we used at the time was, no matter how bad things get, you still go home to see your mom. And we clearly saw that happen. Or your dad, somebody.
All right. I wanted to ask you about another topic that's been in the news recently. You had an agreement with American Airlines for a partnership that was deemed anti-competitive. The Circuit Court of Appeals last week ruled that to be also illegal. So my guess is it's not coming back in the same form. But you are looking for a U.S. partner, right?
Yeah, we've said publicly we are looking for some sort of partnership strategy going forward. Now, clearly, we have 52 partners right now, so it's not like we're naive about how this business works. With respect to the NEA, frankly, I agree. I was looking at this from 6,000 miles away, but I agreed with the thought of creating an additional competitor to Delta in New York. Certainly, again, I look at Jersey as sort of different to a certain extent from the two New York airports. And Delta's a very formidable competitor. And I do think it was pro-consumer for JetBlue and American to get together. I've read the judge's ruling. I've read both rulings. I think the judge has been very clear about what he liked and what he didn't like with respect to the law. And I certainly think there could be a structure that would work going forward, not like the NEA, but we could also work with other carriers too. And we've talked to multiple carriers about this. And I think that, frankly, I look at the model we see from Alaska, where they've had a very, very open partnership structure, and until they're joining One World, obviously. And I do think there could be a path that would be interesting for us.
Okay. You mentioned Delta before. People probably know you, and they certainly can tell on your accent. You're a Boston guy at heart. You built Boston for JetBlue.
Why are they laughing?
I don't know. But you built Boston for JetBlue. I believe that you used to be the #1 airline there. Mm-hmm. And then Delta came in and said, you know what, we're bigger than you are, we're more profitable than you are, and we're going to build our own hub here, and it's going to be bigger. What are the dynamics of Boston right now? Is it hard to be the #2 to Delta?
It doesn't feel like we're #2 to Delta. I know that the numbers would show you that. I would say that certainly from a mainline perspective, we're #1. A lot of the Delta airplanes are little express airplanes that are flying to smaller cities. But to the destinations that leisure customers focus on, we are clearly number one. There's no question. Number one to the Caribbean, number one to Florida. We're not trying to be the biggest airline in Minneapolis or Detroit or Salt Lake or you pick it. We have a very specific niche that our customers love us in. So I feel great about where we stand right now. I mean, I look at Delta to a certain extent sort of playing in a different business than we do there.
All right. You know what Scott Kirby tells me about hub competition, right?
Do tell me.
If you're not first, you're last.
I've heard that. I saw that movie.
And then what about New York? Where are you with share in New York?
I think we're also second in New York. Again, New York. I sort of view New York differently.
Oh, Newark was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah. But looking at this side of the Hudson, Delta also a very formal competitor. It is a slot control market, and again, you look at our network, and it's we've pulled a lot of business type markets out of JFK and refocused on Caribbean and Florida because that's what does well for us. We have had some transcon growth with airplanes being delivered, which we're very excited about, but we do not have a model of being all things to all people.
Okay.
Our model is to be profitable.
One of the great things about you, Marty, is that you understand both sides of the business really well, the commercial side, the operations side. I don't do operations as much, but I do want to allow you an opportunity to talk about engines here. You're supposed to have a lot more airplanes than you do.
And we have the planes.
You have the planes, they're just gliders
Yes,
at this point.
We have a lot of gliders.
Are you any closer to figuring this out with Pratt & Whitney, both in terms of just getting the engines and then getting paid for them?
I'm not here to negotiate on stage with them. I mean, we continue to talk to them. I think it's, you pick a Pratt customer, you'll see an unhappy airline right now. I mean, we're in a tough spot right now. And I'm not, again, you made a comment about how I'm generally pretty candid. The LCC model does depend on growth. And we've said, 2024, 2025 are really not growth years for us, but they are capital years. We've got $1 billion in capital spending on airplanes that aren't necessarily flying. So this stresses the business model a lot. And, we have been talking to Pratt all along. I do hope we'll come to a settlement that sort of compensates us for some amount of this, but we have a long way to go.
It sounds frustrating.
It's very frustrating, absolutely. Especially now that we have a jet forward plan, we know where we want to go, and the airplanes really are holding us back a little bit right now.
Okay. Should we take some audience questions?
Whatever you want.
All right. Nice, easy one first there. Do you foresee expansion into more EU destinations?
The next one's good. How about that one?
That is a softball of a question.
Well, I say two things. First of all, we have 2 XLRs coming in 2025, and that is the last LR or XLR we get until 2030. So from an aircraft perspective, we're going to be relatively constrained. We did some experimenting this summer with Dublin and Edinburgh, which I think we're both happy with. This is the news I'll make. They're both coming back in summer 25. They've been great.
Huge news.
What is to me,
yeah.
and to our crew members. But we're certainly looking at opportunities to reallocate the fleet. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail as far as what we're looking at, but yeah, I think we'll probably see at least one more European destination next year.
XLRs can go in multiple directions. You ever think about South America?
It's so funny you say that because I first got here and I thought this would be a great airplane from Fort Lauderdale to Brazil. Unfortunately, there's an obstacle at the end of the runway, and we cannot do that. But I certainly think, looking at the prices in South America, I could see it working. But right now, range-wise, we're struggling with that a little.
The obstacle is in which airport?
Lauderdale.
Okay. All right. Another audience question. They're not as ruthless as I had hoped, but
well, you can just ask ruthless questions.
I could. Here's actually an interesting one. JetBlue added its first mainland essential air service market this year. Are more coming? It's not getting paid by the government to fly, right?
It is. I mean, I will say that there's a small basket of cities where JetBlue probably could be a good solution, but it's a pretty small basket. If you look at where ES is going right now, small as a taxpayer, that's probably good. Presque Isle was unique in that it is so far away, it was going to be served by a jet no matter what. And I think there are a couple of other markets that could fit that, but not a lot.
All right.
This is not a quarter jet forward right now, trust me.
Okay, all right. I don't know how much time you've had to digest the election results, but there's kind of an understanding with the new government coming in that the M&A landscape might be a little bit different next time than it was last time. You guys look at any M&A? Does anything seem more interesting to you than it would have been 6 months ago?
No.
No. All right.
I mean, we're focused on Jet Forward. I mean, our job right now is to get earnings back to where they need to be to keep our customers happy and our shareholders happy. Obviously, we did look at M&A in the past. We're not looking at M&A now. I'm very comfortable with where we stand, and I just want to execute the path that we're on.
Okay. When is JetBlue going to be profitable again?
So I'm not really in a position to talk about that. I will say that we have said publicly to our investors, right now we're trying to build a up margin break-even number for 2025. We've not had that in 4 years for on a 12-month basis. Let's get to that first, then we'll focus on how we're going to accelerate from there.
Okay.
Go back to that other slide. That blue slide was a good one. We talked about Jet Forward as I have no pull here. Yeah.
There it is. A slide of cliches.
It's not on this slide. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Damn, that hurts.
Products and perks customers value.
Thank you. Listen, the most important part of the slide is not on here, which is it's $900 million of EBIT over the next 3 years. Like, that's what's really important about this. Is it's an important part of our path to profitability. And it's funny, we say be loved at the same time because back to the great Gordon Bethune line, you can make a pizza. Make a pizza so cheap that no one wants to eat it. We want to make sure what's special about JetBlue stays special. We've had operational challenges. 24 has been a great operational year in comparison. We've had NPS go up double digits year over year in the third quarter. We want to make all these changes while still having fantastic NPS and happy customers.
Okay.
We're not going to turn ourselves into Ryanair.
The EBIT number, what's the biggest contributor to it?
Actually, your favorite cliche, products and perks, is the biggest contributor to that. So sorry, it actually is the one that has all the money behind it. But we're
like
very
that Junior
optimistic
Mint
about it.
product that you were not commenting on.
Alleged Junior Mint.
Okay.
Great name, though, by the way. I think it's taken. But for the non-Americans, there's a candy called Junior Mints, but that's okay. We've got a lot of products in there. The even more changes, preferred seating product. But it's interesting. It's actually pretty well divided across the 3 years. And products and perks is certainly the biggest category. I think it's over half of it is coming in that category. But this is a sort of an all-faceted plan.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. I will spar with you on stage
Awesome.
anytime.
All right. Thank you, sir.